Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, Rashada has picked Georgia. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the star rankings. How important are those in recruiting, and especially as to where a lot of players wind up in the NFL, and also the success they have in college. And I'm talking about the teams as well. How important are those things? And this video is going to come out a little late today. Stuck at work all weekend.
Drink it up, people! All right, drink it up, gambler.
Yeah, it gets a little rough slinging that Kaiser blade.
Some folks call it a sling blade. I call it a Kaiser blade.
But let's get right on into this. Now, Jaden Rashada, as you know, they had the big controversy or scandal, whatever you want to call it, down in Florida. And I've chronicled that because I'm not a huge fan of Florida, as you know. They've taken a big old dump in our Cheerios enough, and we're going to turn that around in a major way this year at Neyland. But anyway, they had a big issue with Jaden Rashada. They had promised him, or one of their collectives, they've got two, I don't know how many they got left, they had promised him something like $13 million. And then when he got there, they couldn't find their checkbook.
Where's my money? Where's my money? Yeah, you got money to pay for fake mustaches, huh?
So he wound up going to Arizona State. Now, he lost out on a big deal in Miami. I don't know how they settled all that. I'm sure they probably settled it out of court or whatever. Who knows? But anyway, he went to Arizona State, and he actually started there as a true freshman, which is that's hard to do. I don't know if that was necessarily good for him, and he did have an injury, and he didn't play a whole lot after that, but he did get to play in some games. So anyway, now he's on his way to Georgia. He picked Georgia. Now, why this kind of stinks for Florida is that they also lost Trevor Etienne, one of their best running backs, to Georgia. And Georgia's kind of having their way right now with Florida.
I drink your milkshake.
Yeah, they're definitely drinking their milkshake. It's not a lot of fun down there. But the one positive thing for Florida is they've got DJ Lagway. He was a 5-star recruit, and my understanding he's a fine quarterback. Now, granted, he's not going to start this year. They've got Graham Mertz, who actually played really well last year, threw for like 70%. Now, that didn't help them that much when it came to their record. They wound up finishing like 5-7, which is unbelievably their third straight losing season, which just shocks me. That's really hard to believe that the Florida Gators could have 3 losing seasons in a row. Just blows my mind. But anyway, that's what's happened. And Billy Napier, you want to talk about being on a hot seat. He is on the hottest of hot seats. It is on fire like you can't believe. And it won't take more than a couple of losses before people start freaking out on him. Now, as a Tennessee fan, it would probably be best for us if he stuck around a few more years. But he's going to have to win some ball games to do that. And we can't have that against us. I cannot handle a loss to Florida at Neyland. That would be bad. Especially this year with Nico. So we'll see how this plays out. It's also Steve Spurrier has been talking, and about a month ago, he came out with the quote of, "What the heck are we doing?" He was talking about how many coaches they've got. They've got so many coaches over there. It's crazy. But they didn't even have a special teams coach, and of course, special teams last year was a disaster. So we'll see how this plays out for Florida. There's part of me that's kind of rooting for them in a way, and another part of me it's like, nah, not really. And I'm sure they've got Kiffin on speed dial over there. So if something does happen with Napier, I'm sure Kiffin will be on the first plane over there. But anyway, Rashada is now at Georgia. And Georgia we'll be talking about them later on in this video. Now we're going to talk about how important star rankings are in recruiting as far as success at a college, success in the NFL, etc. Let's get into this a little bit. Now, I'm going to give you a little background on recruiting. You know there's like 35 stars. Every year there's 35 stars. Then there's about 270 or so 4 stars, and then the rest are 3 stars, 2 stars, etc. Now, if you Google it, they'll say there's like 1,500 3 stars. I'm not going to go with that number because that's not what the Power 5 college teams are going to be going after. They're pretty much interested in the top 1,000 players, the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and then about 700 3 stars. And that's going to be your top 60 teams are going to be plucking from all those 1,000. Now, with those numbers, if everything fell the way they're supposed to in the draft, you would have 3% 5 stars, 27% 4 stars and 70% 3 stars. But we all know, of course, that's not how that's going to play out, because the 5 stars are much more talented and they're going to have a much higher likelihood of not only getting to the NFL, but being in the first round. And I'm going to show you how 2024, the NFL draft played out, 5s, 4s, and 3s. And I just went ahead and put it on this graph for you just to make it easy. In the first round in 2024, there were 7 5-stars that went in the first round. So they wound up as 22%. So there's almost 8 times more likely that you're going to go in the first round if you're a 5-star.
Okay.
And here you can see there were 15 4-stars. So instead of the 27%, you're twice as likely to go in the first round of the draft if you're a 4-star. And that probably makes sense. And the rest of the first round were 3 stars, which actually was a higher percentage than I thought it would be. This year, there were 9, which is 29%. So that's a few more than I expected. But as you can see, those star rankings are super important as far as where you wind up in the NFL and where you have success in college. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the success of a team as opposed to how many draft picks they have as compared to not. And you really need, if you're going to be in the top 3, 4, 5 teams, you need to have 7, 8, 9, 10 players drafted, somewhere in that neighborhood. The record most that have ever been drafted in one season is Georgia with 15, and that was in 2022. And Michigan had a bunch this year themselves. They had 12. Of course, they're coming off a natty. And when you have that many stellar players or athletes, you're going to be a heck of a ball club. And a lot of those Michigan players stayed an extra year because they felt like they had a chance at a natty. And Connor Stallions, good job, buddy.
It's got to be America's team.
And old Connor Stallions had to be proud this year, very proud. Now, I can remember when Tennessee was at their top, they were hanging around 8, 9, 10 players getting drafted. I think in 2020, they had about 10 drafted that year, and that's when they were pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4 in that ranking. Last year, the Vols had 5 players drafted in the first 3 rounds, which is one of the reasons why we went 11-2. You know, we won 11 ball games, but we had 5 big-time players. We had Hendon Hooker. We had, actually, Darnell Wright went in the first round. Hendon Hooker went in the third round with a torn ACL. He'd have been a first round. Then we had Jalen Hyatt in the third round, Cedric Tillman in the third round, and then Byron Young, who has just killed it in the NFL, by the way, for the Rams. He went in the third round. So, you won 11 games, and we almost made the playoff last year. So, you need to have some really good players. Well, this year we won 9 ball games. We didn't have any players at all in the first 3 rounds, 0, as opposed to 5 the year before. And this year we had Jalen Wright, who was a 3-star, by the way. He went in the 4th round to Miami. Then we had Joe Milton in the 6th round, and we had Kamel Hayden, who also went in the 6th round. I think he went to Kansas City. So that tells you it's really important. You've got to have the players. You've got to have the ranked players. And it's just kind of the way it is. And I know not everybody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to hear about the 2-star and the 3-star that makes it big in the league. The Cedric Tillman, who was a super low 3-star, who winds up going 3rd round. Everybody likes that. Or a Jalen Hyatt, who was a 3-star, who winds up going in the 4th round, which really I thought he was going to go in the 3rd round. But he led the league at one point in the SEC for most rushing, and he averaged over 6 yards a carry. He was fantastic for us last year. And he ran a 4.38 in the 40, a 3-star guy. So he really improved his draft stock in a significant way, especially with his junior year. But it's really important. So that's why the Georgias, the Alabamas, now Texas, Ohio State, all those types of teams are staying at the top. And if you don't have a lot of players going in the NFL draft, you're probably outside the top 20. That's just kind of how it is. You've got to have the ingredients to make a great stew. And that's why there's so many of these NIL deals that are going out there paying big money. Because if you don't have the athletes, you're not going to make it. And honestly, we should be really happy with Josh Heupel, super happy. The fact he's won 11 games and 9 games, and he is well below where these top teams are as far as athletes. To not have anybody in the first 3 rounds this year, and he still won 9 games, it's pretty impressive. And his recruiting is improving, especially now that we've got this NCAA off our back. He has had the NCAA hovering over him for a long time that had nothing to do with Josh Heupel. And, of course, recently they tried to get to Nico, which we absolutely kicked their butts.
Don't be a fool. We can do this easy, or we can do it real easy.
And I hope they enjoyed it. But now we don't have that hanging over us anymore. We've got a real nice collective, and we're starting to get quite a few 5-stars. We picked up 2 in 23, 2 in 24, and we'll probably pick up 2 more in 25. And we'll start having, 6, 8, 10 5-stars on our team. And that really makes a huge difference because those are difference makers. And, of course, you want a ton of 4-stars. And you really need to have at least half your recruits need to be 4-star or 5-star in order to hit that blue chip level that gives you a chance to win a national championship, which is what Heupel's trying to do and what all the teams out there are trying to do. And you're trying to compete against Georgia and all these other teams that are just loaded for bear, and picking up a Jaden Rashada, who was a former high 4-star, low 5-star, who's going to be a backup and knows it, and a Trevor Etienne. They're not going there for money. They're going there to try to win a natty. And what was it Trevor Etienne said about Florida? And this is not a direct quote, but it's super close. He said, I can either be running back 2 on a losing team or go somewhere else and possibly be RB1 and win a natty. So that's why he left. It wasn't money. I can assure you he was probably making more at Florida. So anyway, just wanted to break that down a little bit, talk about the star ratings in recruiting, the NFL draft, and all of those things. And, of course, Jaden Rashada. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me to continue to cover all these college sport news. If you've not subscribed right here, hit this little button. It won't cost you a dime, and it'll help me with the algorithm. Now, I don't totally understand the algorithm. You know that.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you.
But I know it helps. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.